And I was reading some things on jw.org. Do you have a minute?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I was reading this idea. They seem to talk about a lot about it. It's new to me. I just go to a regular church. About the faithful slave. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they talk about it quite a lot. I was looking up some alternative views on that, like kind of response views, and I just wanted to read this one to you. I wanted to see what your response would be to this.
Okay.
Do you have a, it's just a few sentences, but anyway, it says that the defining concept to be, meaning like the core doctrine to being a Jehovah's Witness is not worship of Jehovah, but rather following the faithful and discreet slave. In a judicial committee, the foremost question is not whether a witness believes the Bible or worships Jehovah, but whether they believe Jehovah is using Watchtower's faithful slave. If a person believes in the Bible and Jehovah, they will still be disfellowshipped as an apostate if they openly say they believe that the governing body does not represent Jehovah's slave or channel.
Oh, that's completely inaccurate.
Okay,
As
in what way?
it as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, we study the Bible, we
Uh-huh.
go by the Bible counsel
Uh-huh.
and direction, and we
Uh-huh.
serve Jehovah.
Uh-huh. Well, that's not what
And
this was about. So you can openly say you're unsure or don't believe that they are like God's only channel on earth. You can go around saying that, or would that be like you'd be an apostate, even if you say you still believe in God?
well, it seems doesn't sound right.
Oh,
We
okay.
serve Jehovah.
You're
We
right. It
follow
sure
God.
doesn't sound right, does it?
Yeah, that is
But
it's
I'm
not
asking if
accurate.
that's true or accurate as to what really goes on. I've actually seen videotaped judicial committees, and from viewing them, they're posted on YouTube. They were taped, that
Oh,
certainly does seem to be true. They really ignore the person's questions and points about the organization, and they say, "Hey, we just want to get all we want to know is, do you believe they're the slave the channel God is using today?"
well, to have a video tape of a judicial committee is not the way we do it. I don't know if I trust that information.
Yeah, they did it secretly. You can
Yeah,
actually see
that's
them. It's very interesting. They're on YouTube.
yeah. I
Hmm.
Anything on YouTube that isn't posted from Jehovah's organization, I doubt if it's accurate.
Yeah, they teach you to view outside information that way. One of the leaders said, "Stick with what we have authorized. You'll be safe."
Well,
That's
it's
ridiculous.
it's the Bible that we follow.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning the Bible. I'm just asking this question, and that does
Well,
seem to be the core doctrine. Although when the one of the leaders was in a court case under oath, and they asked him that question, and it was really interesting how he sidestepped that question. They make the people say the slave is the only one Jehovah's using, and he wouldn't even answer that clearly in court. He said that would seem presumptuous, and just
yeah.
yeah.
It,
Did you
it,
hear about
it's
that?
well, no, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to uh, what hearsay and uh, videotaping without permission.
Uh huh.
I don't put a lot of confidence in that.
Right.
So
That they teach you to broad brush any outside information as being false or misleading, and that's that's something that's actually talked about as a red flag of a very high controlling or toxic group. They shouldn't do that. And the court case I was talking about, it was called the Australia Royal Commission Case Study 29, and you can read about Jeffrey Jackson's testimony on their government website.
yeah, well, I'm not real interested in it. But
Right,
I've got a
right.
meeting that's going to start here in about
That's interesting. It's your own
5 or 6.
spokesman for Jehovah. You're not interested in, maybe he's fulfilling the Bible about witnessing before the nations. So why isn't he proud of that? It's not on the website, the whole thing, Case Study 29, Australia Royal Commission. They only have sexual abuse investigations about other organizations on their website. I've noticed that.
Okay, well, um, I I can't really help you
Yeah.
uh, too much right now, and it does
Okay.
sound like you've got apostate material that you're.
Oh, that's another thing they do. They call like outside information, like names like that, and to stop you from thinking about it.
Oh well, I
That's so
trust
wrong.
Jehovah's organization, and I trust Jehovah, and
Right.
I
Right.
I don't think we have a whole lot to talk about.
Right. Well, that's a red flag of a high control group. You can even look it up. It's called information control.
Okay,
Scientology
well,
does it also.
yeah,
Okay, thank
I
you. Thanks for
yep,
talking. God bless you.
yep.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Oh, hi. My name is Christine. I was doing some reading on jw.org. I just had a quick question about something.
Okay, sure.
Do you have a minute?
Sure, I can take a second or two.
Okay. Well, I was reading this. This is I'm not used to this because I just go to a regular church, but I was reading about the faithful slave. So I read most of, kind of get the basic idea. They seem to talk about that a lot. So I was kind of looking up what is the response to that, to maybe looking at the other point of view. I just wondered if I could ask you about this one point of view that somebody wrote, and I would just want to see what your then response would be to that. Can I just read it
Sure.
to you? Okay, it says the defining concept or core doctrine to being a Jehovah's Witness is not the worship of Jehovah, but rather following the faithful slave. In a judicial committee, the foremost question is not whether a witness believes the Bible or worships Jehovah, but whether they believe Jehovah is using Watchtower's faithful slave. If a person believes in the Bible and Jehovah, they will still be disfellowshipped as an apostate if they openly admit they believe that the governing body does not represent Jehovah's slave. Is that
That's
true?
interesting. Well, let's put it in context. Jesus said that there would be a faithful and discreet slave that would be, have all his belongings. Is that correct? You understand that, right?
So you
That there would be
believe they
that
were
case.
appointed over all his belongings?
That's what the Bible tells us.
Okay,
Is
because
that
they changed that now, and they
Jesus,
said they're not appointed over all his belongings until later. I remember reading that. But anyway, I understand what they believe that is pointing to the Watchtower, which is interesting. But I understand the belief. But what do you say about this response? Is that correct? Because I also saw some taped things that they call a judicial committee where people videotape them, and this seems true. They didn't really want to interact with the person's concerns about the organization, whether it's current scandals or past history, dates, and things like that. But they said, hey,
sure.
we're not going to talk about that. We just want to know, do you believe they're the only channel type thing? So,
Sure. Well, I can
yeah.
tell you this: when someone is baptized after having studied the Bible, and as you study the Bible, you realize that as far as what we learn, that it's coming from a good place. And the way that Jehovah's Witnesses work is we have a how can I put it? Um, the basis is how the first century Christians worked. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, like when they had an issue of blood, for example, whether or not to take in blood or any of
To
these
eat, they
sorts
were
of
talking
things.
about eat it as a food. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and is it appropriate and is it not? And that discussion came up, as well as circumcision was another big issue at the time. And we look at the history and what the Bible tells us in the Book of Acts on these things, and they formed committees, and they were the apostles initially and older men of the congregation did this. And so what occurs after that was they've come to a unanimous understanding, and it says by means of the Holy Spirit, that it had been, revealed through like the Apostle Peter being given a vision of having certain foods that the Israelites were not supposed to eat come down, and then he saw in vision to take and eat it. And so different things like this pointed out that the Gentiles, for example, were to be welcomed into the congregation as well. And so there's these ways from in the past that a group of men were formed to lead this congregation, the congregations, I should say. And so as time went on, when it was reestablished, there would be a period, it talks of when it would be basically hidden, the organization, because of well, that's another day, but basically until it revived in the late 1800s, it had been basically hidden. The organization, because of the weeds and the wheat. There's a prophecy regarding that, having to do with the wheat would be hidden because they would grow alongside the weeds, and you'd have to see the illustration. But the point is that it follows the Bible thing that there would be a period of time when the organization, Jehovah's Witnesses as we're known now, would not be visible, and so that was hidden in the between the weeds and the wheat. And so the weeds represented churches roundabout that taught falsehoods and so forth. And then afterward, the wheat would arise, it says, and they would be distinguished.
What verse says the wheat would arise?
Let me find that. Well, we have to go to the weeds and the wheat.
Yeah.
1 second here. I'm actually in security here. Is it possible to meet with you?
Oh, no, I don't live close enough. But anyway, thanks for explaining their point of view, which I have actually read, that they make those claims. But I was just asking, do you agree with that you're an apostate if you don't believe and openly, affirm that the governing body is the only channel?
Well, could I ask you an illustration maybe and see what you think? If you belong, you're in the United States, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then would you say that the government that's been appointed is the true government, and that the laws are to be followed that the government establishes, or would you say it's another government that you should follow? Let's say from Cuba or somewhere else. What would be your response?
Of course, as far as the government doesn't contradict the laws of God,
Right, exactly. Very good. And so, similarly, it comes down to as a witness of Jehovah, we recognize, based on our studies of the Bible, that indeed the faithful and discreet slave is the appointed organization on this earth, but Jesus Christ ultimately is ruling from heaven. And so, it comes down to looking into the Bible, as God's word. We believe it to be the truth and incompletely. And so, similarly, like as you look to the United States' laws and so forth, and you would be considered, what would be the word, if you didn't obey the laws, an outlaw basically, and you lose certain rights in that instance. Similarly, as witnesses, one thing we do is we declare that, yes, we've understood, and after reading and studying thoroughly the Bible, that Jesus has appointed a slave class. And
the nine men in New York, right? Yeah.
Well, it varies. Depends on
it varies.
What the numbers can vary.
Oh, I see.
People die.
Do you know why? Do you know why they've had so many different definitions of who the slave even is over their history? They didn't say it was the governing body till just very recently.
What other ones I'm not familiar with?
Oh, okay. Well, the initial definition of who the slave was the 144,000, which was all the Bible students in the time of the beginning, years. And then they changed the slave to being Charles Russell. And then after that, they went back to the slave being the 144,000, but with Jesus added. Then after some decades, they made it the anointed and the governing body. So that was after a
Yeah,
very long time. They had never said that
very
before.
good.
And then
I
recently
haven't heard
changed it.
anybody who really listened to
Yeah,
that.
and then recently changed it to just the governing body, 9 men. What if you still believe the Bible, as they said before, that the Bible clearly teaches it's the anointed class and the governing body? But everybody changed their mind the day the channel said, no, it's just the governing body. I mean, maybe next they'll change it to just one person again.
Well, here's what one of the things, if you look at why they changed it to just
Mm-hmm.
the governing body,
Mm-hmm.
is meaning these 9 men,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the others, has to do with the wording in the
Mm-hmm.
Bible and clear understanding
Really?
of certain things.
Why
Yeah,
did
like
they say it
example.
was based on the Bible before, though? They didn't say it's just what we think. They said it's from Jehovah. Their truths are always from Jehovah that everybody must affirm. And then if everybody changes their mind in one day just because they say so, that's not
Uh-huh.
really going by the Bible. It's following men.
Okay, well, here's a thought for you. You know, it does say that the light would get brighter and brighter as the day is firmly established. And so, you know, this light is the light of truth. And it becomes, you know, when we understand things more, we're not
We,
afraid to make
well,
changes accordingly.
we didn't make changes. I don't know why you're including yourself in anybody who decided those. That's
No, no,
interesting.
no. I'm
And
saying that
also, they don't present their information as just a current understanding that might change. When will it ever be totally right then? I mean, why are, they have this is really interesting. They have this article in their, on the online library called Changes That Disturb People. And it's
sure.
not about them, it's about Catholics that changed meat on
Uh-huh.
Friday. Now, why are their changes not disturbing? Because they're much more monumental than eating meat on Friday. They've changed they used to teach to worship Jesus for 70 years, and then they changed that. And
Yeah, I'm
they
not
told
familiar with
people
that
that
one
was,
either.
yeah, that's really interesting. If you search worship Jesus, and there's one man who was a witness. He wrote an article about that because he kind of lived through that change, and he did believe to worship Jesus. Jay Hess, if you search his name with worship Jesus, the article comes up. It's in what was called the Christian Research Journal. It's very interesting.
Hmm.
And I mean, you
Yeah,
can
no, I
confirm
haven't
that,
run
and
across that one.
yeah, you can confirm that in all the publications that they did teach that
Sure.
to worship Jesus, who was
Actually,
actually
if
a
you want,
created, but at the same time, listen, get this, they taught that he was created. And in Romans 1, it says not to worship the creation, only the creator. So
uh-huh.
now they define that as
Well, you know, one thing we
idolatry.
did recently, you might find this interesting.
Uh-huh.
One thing we did recently, the change that occurred, when I say we, I refer to the organization, through the lead of the Faithful and Discreet Slave. We have what's called, if you go under videos, or if you're in is it online that you're looking?
Yeah, jw.org, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look under recent videos, and under, let me think what it's called. Broadcasts, GW broadcasts.
Yeah.
And there is what's called the annual meeting part 2.
Uh-huh.
If you listen to that in there, it talks about how we now view a change that has occurred, and you'll see why. They point out, you know, an example of why changes are made, you know, and how they've concluded these things. So in there, the annual review, part 2, it's in that section of JW Broadcasting, and I think you just can go to the search bar and just type annual meeting part 2 or something, even for 2020.
Is that the one where he said they don't need to apologize or be embarrassed about false previous teachings? Yeah, I think he said
No,
that.
I don't believe that. But this has got to do with how
Yeah.
we now understand those sheep and the goats would be judged when,
Uh-huh.
and so forth. And
I think he did say that. You might want to run that by again, because it was much discussed in various forums that discuss about religion, that he said we don't need to apologize or be embarrassed. Outsiders would call them false teachings, previous false teachings. They call it old light or something. But they do need to apologize because some of those things have hurt people tremendously, even caused deaths and suicide and different things like that. People orienting
Yeah,
their
that's
whole
sad.
life to certain dates that they said, don't worry about your career, and nothing happened, and all blood fractions are wrong, and different things like that. So people feel they it's quite astonishing to say they don't need to apologize. And of course, they use that language all the time as it's all coming from the Bible, or it's all coming from Jehovah, and everybody must now change their mind and agree with it. So in a sense, in essence, what you have is they have all the authority but no accountability. And so it's kind of cool arrangement for them, isn't it? Like a win-win, So
How do they benefit from that, though?
how do they
How are they
benefit?
benefiting?
Being considered
Yeah,
God's
how do
only
they
channel of
benefit?
truth among 8 million people. It's an incredible power trip.
Yeah. Well, anyway, all I can do is suggest looking at that annual meeting and consider
Yeah.
how that one example shows why the light got brighter and how they made changes. It's
Is the
really
light
interesting.
got brighter in context in that chapter about changing doctrine, or about the contrast between the walk of a righteous man and an evil man? You might want to check the context there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you
Okay.
have a good day.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks so much for being so
Bye
nice
now.
to me. I enjoyed our chat.
Sure, no problem.
God bless you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.
Christine, I was just doing some research on jw.org, and I just had a quick question somebody could help me with.
Sure.
Do you have
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was reading about it. This is really new to me, these kind of ideas, but I was reading about what was called the faithful and discreet slave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I read a couple of things on there about that. They talk about it quite a lot. I was reading like the alternative view, like kind of somebody making a response to that, and I just wanted to see what you thought about it. Is that okay if I just read it, a couple sentences to you?
I don't know if I can have time to get into that. We have a meeting starting here in a little bit, but I think the best way to see our viewpoint of it is just to read that article there on our website.
Yeah, did you hear what I said? I said that I've read their viewpoint, and it's always prudent to look at both sides of an issue, and I just wanted to see what you thought about it. It's only a few sentences.
I wouldn't be interested in what other people interpret that as, because I think, like I said, I just don't have time to get into it at this point.
Oh, because you said you had time. See, I'm an outsider, and I do go to church, but they don't restrict my information. I am interested in what outsiders say, and I want to learn how to answer their questions or objections. It's called in Christianity apologetics. So
Are you local here?
No,
to the community?
no.
Okay.
Your kind of thought on that you're not interested in other, hello? Oh, hi. My name is Christine. I was just reading a lot of things on jw.org. I just had a quick question, if you have a minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was reading about the faithful slave, and I just had some questions about that. So I was kind of searching on some other points of view, because that would be the prudent thing to do, But
well, the best thing to do would be, hold on just a second.
Yeah.
The best thing to do would be to put the question online. You can ask questions.
Oh, I know.
You can ask for someone to follow up.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I'm not restricted to just that source. You know how it's prudent to look at different views, so I'm trying to get the alternative view on that. Can I just run this quick thing by you about a point about?
I'm sorry, I'm in a meeting right now.
Oh,
I really
okay.
Don't have time.
Okay, no problem. Thanks,
But
anyways.
if you just put your questions online, or do a follow-up, request a follow-up, then someone will contact you.
Yeah, I'm not looking again. Don't you understand? I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm looking at
No, that's okay.
contrasting views. So I'm not going to get that on their website. I'm familiar, with the website now, and I just wanted to see what you thought about this contrasting view and see what you would answer to it. So.
Yeah, we can't do that over the phone.
Okay, really? Oh,
Okay.
Like you're not allowed to?
If you do a request to visit,
somebody
Oh,
can contact you.
is that like
Someone local.
something dictated that you can't talk over the phone with people who are researching the organization? That's real interesting to me.
No, that if you like to do that, then you have to contact our public affairs office. But I recommend that you request a visit.
Oh, are you an elder?
Yes.
Then I mean the
But I
Bible
can't,
talks
like I said,
about.
I have a meeting that I'm in.
Yeah, but you're
Contact
saying
me.
some other things that are very interesting. But anyway, okay, thanks. God bless you. See ya.